Hey, what's up guys? And after the ending of What If Naruto was a Uchiha that created his own village, I told you there's nothing to worry about. And yeah guys, I'm back with a new series for you guys to enjoy. First of all, I want to thank John, Mad Dog, who gave me this idea some time ago. And this is a rather interesting one. What if Naruto was the reincarnation of the Grand Priest and the Omni King, guys? So once again, thanks for the idea, and yeah, I hope you guys like it. So don't forget to sit back, relax, and yeah, enjoy. And turn on the bell notification to see when I post, because I do post a hell of a lot. I indeed have 3 more channels. All of the links will be down in the description, so go ahead, check them out, and yeah, enjoy. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode, shall we? Yes, let's begin now, guys. It was currently nighttime within the Hidden Leaf, otherwise known as Konoha. It was said to be the strongest nation within the Elemental Nation, as our story resides on a young boy. He was calmly making his way, both of his hands in his pockets. It was rather late, and when you realize that his age was very young, it seemed rather surprising for him to be out here this late. He was just 3 years old as he walked with his hands in his pockets. He possessed blonde hair. However, at the tip of each of the blonde spikes that he possessed, it was white. He had blue eyes, like the ocean. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt, along with black shorts and sandals on his feet. As he was looking around, he seemed to be rather happy as he gazed around. He was within the upper district of the Hidden Leaf village. He paused when he noticed the massive wall. If he wasn't mistaken, this was one of those special clans, he thought to himself. Bending his knees, he jumped straight up in the air, clearing the entire wall in one jump. However, he didn't go over it though. Looking at the clan, the Hyuga clan, he said to himself. That is when his gaze caught something dashing into the shadows. As he pinpointed and focused on this thing, it was a man wearing a Kumo headband that tilted over his left eye, and the standard Jonin uniform of a Kumo ninja. He had a sack on his back. The young boy, who was still suspended in mid-air, as he was calmly falling down, he started to focus on the bag. As in his vision, the outline of a young girl could be seen, despite the bag not be see-through. Given the man's actions, he scratched his head. Well, that's not good, he said. Having great intellect and speech for a 3-year-old child, he pushed himself in the air. As the air seemed to move along with him, he landed on the solid wall before he suddenly vanished. While that was going on, the Kumo ninja had been here earlier to sign the peace treaty between the 2 villages. He was the ambassador of Kumo. However, this was just a ploy, and he got what he wanted, and now he was leaving. After his friends, who had been with him, had scoped out the Hyuga compound, he knew exactly where to go without being caught. As he was making his way, hi there, the Kumo ninja blinked in shock. In front of him was a child, floating upside down, looking directly into his eyes. Not wanting to be caught, certain of the repercussions, he immediately flicked out a kunai out of his pouch and shot it forward. However, the child was gone. So was the sack on his shoulder. 5. Rooftops away. The young boy slowly started to unravel the sack. As the young girl who was unconscious inside, he placed his hand on her head and her eyes slowly opened. She looked at him. The first thing she noticed was his eyes. Hers being the standard pupilless eyes of the Hyuga. However, those eyes went wide as she noticed the scary man arrived behind the young boy with the intention to end his life. Before she could speak though, the boy smiled as he turned, meeting the man before he could stab him. He looked at the kunai in his hand as he held his hand out. He clenched his fists. The man was shocked as the kunai in his hand started to disturb and turn and twist until it imploded upon itself. No shrapnels, nothing. It simply ruptured upon itself. I call that destruction. Cool, huh? The child said with a smile on his face. The man wasn't in the mood to talk, as he had to get this over with quickly, lashing out a fist, aiming directly for the boy's face. However, to his surprise, the young boy moved his body before contact could be made, as he twisted on his feet before he jumped upwards, performing a strange spinning motion. The Kumo ninja lashed out his other hand, trying to grab him, but the child suddenly moved in mid-air, dropping before he could reach, allowing the Kumo ninja to cross his own arms. The child quickly jumped in the center of that, as he smiled before he slammed both of his palms into the Kumo ninja chest, making him skid backwards on the roof. He then teleported as he appeared behind him. The man was sent sailing off the roof, utter shock written all over his face as he hit the ground, feeling a sensation of pain coursing through his back. The child stood there with a smile on his face. Seems you're not really in the mood to talk, but I can already tell what you were up to. Trying to kidnap that poor innocent girl, and I can't allow that. The man decided to cut his loss. This wasn't something that he could afford to tussle with for any longer. If he did, he might get caught. He had to leave. Now, he told himself. However, this boy could teleport. He looked around before an idea popped into his head. Pulling another kunai out, he launched it towards the girl, hoping that the boy would go after to save her. The moment he launched it, he took off at his fastest. The girl's eyes widened, however. The kunai stopped inches in front of her face. The boy was standing there right beside her, holding said kunai in his hand. She looked up towards him, however, she wasn't able to see his eyes, as his hair shadowed his face, even from the distance that she stood. His hand started to clench around the weapon, when suddenly, it simply broke into many pieces and ceased to exist in his hand. He turned towards her, putting a smile on his face for her reassurance. Don't worry, you just stay here. Everything's gonna be just fine. With that, he was gone. The man was dashing from rooftop to rooftop at his fastest speed that he could go. He had to get out of here. He had to move now. However, to his shock, a distance ahead on a rooftop was the same boy. No, that's not. He thought that Damn teleportation, he cursed to himself. However, before he could even blink, the child was in front of him. The child pressed both of his hands directly on his chest. The man felt a sensation course through his form. It felt like his body was being pushed. And that is exactly what happened. Boom! He slammed right through a wooden building. Boom! He slammed into another with critical force. He spat out blood as his entire body was in agony. His mind taking a moment to catch up with what the hell was going on. He had moved so fast that his body had not fully been on the same page with his mind. It was just a truly shocking realization and an abnormally shocking feeling that left him in a state of dazzle. However, the next time he blinked, the child was in front of him. You tried to kill that girl for the sole reason of escaping. When you started all of this by kidnapping her, I'm gonna punish you. Before the man could say anything except for a groan of pain, the child gripped him by his head. By taking this away, the child said. The man let out a scream as he felt like his bones were being pulled out of his body. Something wasn't right as he screamed violently. The blood-curdling scream. Well, the crash had already alerted everyone. By the time the child was done, the man was unconscious, not dead, as Hyugas all landed around the child, ready to fight. He immediately threw both of his hands up in the air. I'm not the enemy. This guy is, he said, pointing towards the unconscious man. Oh, he teleported away, surprising all of them. He then reappeared. Despite the both of them being the same size, he was holding the girl in his arms, bridal style. See, I rescued her. Lady Hinata, one of the men said. As the crowd parted as rushing in was her father, Hayashi Hyuga. The young boy rested the girl on her feet as she ran to her father's side, doing a quick check to make sure that she was okay as he picked her up, holding her with one hand. What is the meaning of this? What happened? Hayashi said. Oh, well, you see, that guy there was trying to kidnap the girl, so I stopped him. Hayashi glanced over towards the man. The moment he saw his face, he recognized who he was. He was the ambassador of Kumo. Rage started to course through Hayashi, but his gaze focused on the boy that was talking to him, who looked to be the same age as his daughter, and yet his vocabulary seemed to be more advanced. But not only that, this man that was currently lying unconscious was a Jonin level ninja. And if this child was to be believed, that meant he defeated him by himself because there was no one else here. Who are you? Hayashi asks. Time skip. Hiruzen Sarutobi arrived on the scene as quickly as he could, as he quickly made his way towards Hayashi. However, upon arriving there, Naruto? He said, seeing the young boy who was talking with the young heiress. The moment the young boy known as Naruto turned to see Hiruzen, oh damn it, he cursed to himself. He then turned back to Hinata. I guess I'll see you some other time, he said, as he waved goodbye to her. Hiruzen, who was getting closer, heard what he said. Naruto, come to me now, he said. However, Naruto simply blinked away, vanishing as he came, leaving Hayashi once again surprised by the boy being able to teleport. Hayashi turned his gaze towards Hiruzen as he expected some answers. Time skip. A chakra expert. They brought the unconscious ninja there. Hayashi was notified by one of his men about the strange oddity in the man's body. I don't know how to explain it, the chakra expert said, looking confused. There is no chakra at all in his body. But that doesn't make much sense. How is he still alive? Hayashi asked, looking towards the man. That's the confusing part. None of this makes sense. As far as things are right now, this man should be dead and yet he's alive. But he doesn't have any chakra in his body. His coils, they seem to be completely dry. Hiruzen released a breath as he dismissed the man. I presume that boy was the one behind this. Who is he, Hokage-sama? Hayashi asked, truly interested to know about the child that saved his daughter's life. And also, how was he able to do the things that he could do? Hiruzen released a breath as he looked towards Hayashi. What I'm about to tell you is top secret, and it's information that cannot leave this room. Do you understand? Hayashi nodded, fully understanding the parameters of what he was trying to say. Time skip. Hiruzen was not pleased as he made his way, as he was heading underground. It didn't take him too long for him to arrive, as the man that he came face to face to was none other than his former teammate, Danzo Shimura. When were you going to tell me about his teleportation? Hiruzen asked. What? Danzo said. Don't play me for a fool. I said, when were you going to tell me that he can teleport? I don't know what you're talking about, Danzo said, looking towards the man. There's only one person in this village that you and I have an interest about that is kept between us two. As Danzo looked towards him with a skeptical gaze. What happened? Danzo asked, as Hiruzen told him everything regarding what had happened tonight. The Hyuga manor had to be dealt with. Same for the Kumo manor, but first of all, they had to deal with the Naruto Uzumaki manor. Both Danzo and Hiruzen went towards the monitor room. Upon arriving there was a large screen. There was more than one, but the center one showed the same young boy, Naruto Uzumaki, sitting on the ground and simply reading a book. Danzo decided to rewind the tape, going back to the earlier viewing session, as the both of them stood there as they watched. This doesn't make any sense, Hiruzen said, looking rather confused. I saw him with my own eyes. He was up there. He got involved between the situation, which would have led to something more catastrophic in the future, but this viewing made no sense. Why is he still there? Danzo, one keen eye focused closely. There, he said. There, what? Hiruzen asked. Danzo rewind the tape once again. That is when they saw Naruto's shadow on the ground. It went missing for 5 seconds, and then it reappeared. He did something right here. I think, all this time, while the real one was having fun outside, this was a sort of clone. Hiruzen was frowning as he made his way. He arrived towards a massive door. The door proceeded to open by the root ninjas. He stepped inside, as Naruto turned to greet him with a smile. Oh, hey there, old man, he said. What are you doing here? It's really late. I'm not in the mood for your games, Naruto, Hiruzen said. Why were you on the surface? Me? What are you talking about? I was never on the surface. Naruto, do not lie to me. I saw you with my own eyes. And besides, have you forgotten? Hiruzen glanced up towards the cameras, as Naruto scratched the back of his head. Fine, fine. It was me. I knew that, Hiruzen said. Before that though, how did you leave this place? Naruto released an exhausted sigh. Fine, he said, as Naruto held his hand up and proceeded to distort light in front of him. He bent light itself, causing what seemed to be a gap. And in that gap, nothing could be seen, as he did not do it on himself. Instead, he do it on the clone that he created at his side. He then stepped forward. While he disappeared, the clone came out. However, he forgot about his shadow. Since when can you do that? Well, it's something I created recently, said Naruto. And what about the teleportation? I wanted to go one place to another quickly, and it just came to me, Naruto said. Hiruzen sighed. I thought you understood why it was bad for you to go up there. Why did you disobey my orders? That was a long time ago, Naruto said. I'm better now. I can control the power that I have. You don't have to worry about the people being hurt ever again. Hiruzen stepped forward. Naruto, that was a couple months ago. You're just 3 years old. And you do remember what you did, right? I do, said Naruto. But guilting me with it for the rest of my life, is that something you really want to do? I've told you on numerous occasions I'm fine. What happened was an accident, and it's not gonna happen again. I'm bored down here. I want to go up to the surface, to meet friends, possibly join the academy, to do all sorts of things, probably even become a ninja. I promise you, what happened those months ago will never happen again. I can control it this time. Naruto, upon coming down here, you and I made a deal. A deal to keep you and the villagers safe. And I told you, once you're ready, I will allow you to go to the surface. I've told you this on numerous occasions, and I will not go beyond my deal. And I didn't expect you to go beyond it either. Your parents, they wanted you to become a great ninja, and I don't want to take that away from you. However, I just want to make sure that you and everyone else will be safe through this all. So I need you to respect the parameters of our deal. And don't do anything stupid. You almost exposed yourself completely tonight. Not to mention what you did to that Kumo ninja. So what? He tried to kidnap that little girl. Besides, what would you have wanted? For me to allow her to get kidnapped? Of course not, Naruto. Of course I don't want that, but still. You showed off to him. But not only that, you stripped him of his chakra, didn't you? He deserved it after what he tried to do. He tried to kill her. You told me that bad people deserve to be punished. So I punish him in the way I feel like he deserved to be punished. And even if there's problems between Kumo and Konoha, they're the one that started it. And besides, I am here. And with me fighting on your side, we can't lose, Naruto said. I told you about arrogance and being cocky. Just because you're stronger than most doesn't mean you can't get hurt, or even worse. So I want you to promise me once again that you won't do this. I will allow you to go up to the surface. I will allow you to become a ninja, but I need you to listen to me. Things are very tense and dangerous right now. I need you to listen to me, he said once again. Naruto released a breath. Fine, he said. I won't go back up to the surface. Good, Hiruzen said, as he saw the look on Naruto's face. Cheer up. You were able to protect the heiress of the Hyuga clan, and you did show great control. So, we will have another test done. Perhaps the time for you to step out into the world is closer than you imagine, Hiruzen said with a smile, seeing Naruto cheer up somewhat. Upon speaking to the child for a few more minutes, Hiruzen proceeded to leave. There was a reason why they kept Naruto down here. There was a reason why he was locked away. Flashback. It was moments after the Ninetale attack. Hiruzen Saratobi was looking down towards the corpse of Minato and Kushina, as he then gazed over towards the baby boy in the hand of one of his envoys. So young, and yet so many has been taken from him, and so many burden has been placed on his shoulder. Suddenly, all of them felt something. Throughout the whole process, the child was asleep, which was really abnormal. However, the moment said child opened his eyes, everything changed. The envoy that was holding the baby boy was launched like a stone. But not only him, Hiruzen was sent sailing, and every single envoy around was thrown away. They hit hard when they fell. Hiruzen felt his bones creak as he pulled himself up. Floating in the air was a baby boy, surrounded by a strange purple and blue energy. The child was not crying. It was just looking around, like it had understanding of the world, which should be impossible. The next moment it gently floated back down to the ground. However, to everyone's shock and surprise, the energy swirl that came from it formed a crib underneath it, with soft, plush pillows as it landed right in the center. It was from that moment that Hiruzen knew this child wasn't normal. End of flashback. In order to keep the child on the down low, Hiruzen told the world that the boy that had the nine-tailed seal inside of him died, and the beast was killed along with the child. Hiruzen had to do that after a few hours of thinking what to do. He wanted the child to fly under the radar because of what he witnessed that night. The most shocking part was, it was 5 months later when the child spoke. A 5-month-old baby speaking. The words were not fully functional, but still, it made no sense. From there, his progress was monitored as he was left in the orphanage. Hiruzen had sworn the others to secrecy, for them not to reveal this information while they knew nothing of the Nine Tails. They were not to speak about the extraordinary boy. Growing up, upon turning 1, Naruto could have full conversations. Upon turning 2, he understand everything that was said, his mind understanding things that shock and surprise Hiruzen. However, it was a few weeks after his second birthday that everything went to hell. The entire orphanage exploded, wiping out several people and all the kids. It was a true tragedy. The only person that survived the blast was Naruto. Upon finding out what caused this, Hiruzen was shocked. A young boy within the orphanage had stolen one of Naruto's toys, which angered him, and his anger led to him wiping away the entire orphanage, killing all the orphans and the matrons. Hiruzen had to spun the tale that there was a gas leak, a very tragic fell. Just recently after the Nine-Tail attack, once again the village was shaken up. Hiruzen had no choice but to turn to one of his greatest foes, even though he might live and reside in the same village. The both of them were always clashing against each other. But it was the only choice that he had, because if he did not, Hiruzen feared that he would have to put Naruto down. And he didn't want to do that. But he feared that would have to be the outcome if he could not control himself. At first, Danzo tried to use Fuinjutsu on the boy. However, it took minutes or probably hours for the ink to simply cease to exist, almost like it was destroyed on a subatomic level. The boy was truly abnormal. Months flew by, and Naruto started to gain proper understanding how to control his anger and rage. If anyone could teach him things about emotion, it was Danzo. Hiruzen had made sure to have a sturdy, threatening talk with the man to make sure he didn't do anything stupid, as Hiruzen was given constant report and visit Naruto on a constant basis. If anyone can teach Naruto how to suppress his emotions of anger and rage, it was Danzo. However, Naruto started to exhibit powers that he didn't have before, such as the ability to now teleport, which allows him to leave the base whenever he feels like. That is why Hiruzen was so worried and why he was so shocked when he saw Naruto outside, as he was still fearful that what happened that day might happen on a much larger scale, and not only a building would explode but the entire Leaf Village, or perhaps the entire Land of Fire, as Naruto was a true oddity that possessed powers that no other seemed to be able to understand or to control. But only him. They had to find a way to make sure he was able to control these powers. Another thing though, while the child did seem a bit remorseful, Hiruzen wasn't sure that it was 100%. As sometimes he felt like Naruto was trying to fake his emotions. However, despite the constant testing to see if that was true, they could never find that he was ever lying. So Hiruzen was worried about that. Time skip. A few years flew by. A lot happened in those years. So much. However, at the moment, Naruto who was now 10 years old, stood in the center of a training field, underground of course. Around him was several machines. They were kunai launchers and shuriken launchers. As it was as sound as all of them click on, hundreds of kunais and shurikens were launched towards Naruto at the same time. Holding his hand out, each of them was covered by a blue glow. He then flicked his hand back. With a violent force, they were all sent as he ripped through the machines, tearing them pieces to pieces. Up on the podium looking down was Danzo and Hiruzen, watching the scene down below take place in front of them. However, it was not done yet. Explosive tags were thrown outwards. Boom! The entire place erupted in a violent blast. However, once the smoke and dust cleared, a silver shield was surrounding Naruto as he stood there, unaffected by all of it. He had grown up somewhat, and his hair was longer. It now had two bangs coming down the side of his face. Naruto blinked away as he appeared outside of the dome, as there was specialized Fuinjutsu to keep the explosion inside. He appeared behind Hiruzen and Danzo as he looked towards the both of them. "Is the test over?" he asked. His voice had changed as well. Hiruzen nodded towards him. "You did well, my boy," he said. Hiruzen had lied about releasing Naruto quickly. After all, it had been 7 years since then. 7 years and a lot had changed though. As Naruto already had the grasp to control the power that was fluctuating through his system, but Hiruzen just wanted to make sure. He just wanted to be fully assured that he could. Time skip. Naruto took in a deep breath as the sunlight bathed down on his face. He smiled happily. Well, he had to make it look convincing. Over the past few years, Naruto had been able to leave the confine of the underground on several occasions, as he's found a lot more ways that he could use to trick them, because he had gotten stronger and more crafty over the years. As much as his actions might look like he was doing something bad, he really wasn't. He had a conversation with his parents. Yes, he could feel the chakra imprints inside of him, so he simply pulled them out. His father was shocked, expecting to see the seal failing, but nothing of the sort was happening. They were both shocked upon realizing how special their son was. Naruto had no intentions to turn against the village. He had no intentions to do anything bad. His parents were good, loving people who truly love and adore him. And because of their words, Naruto had listened to the old man and proved to him that he wasn't a threat. And finally, the old man had set him free on his own, without he having to run away. However, there was something that he desired though. He wanted the people to know that he was alive, not as a holder of the Nine Tails, because he wasn't the Nine Tails holder anymore. He wanted them to know that he was alive as the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Hiruzen said that he would make good on his promise, as he no longer expected any danger from Naruto's part being fully under control. Danzo was actually fully supportive of this, because with the name Namikaze and the things that he could do, once again Konoha's reputation would skyrocket for the other nations to realize that they were no joke. As Naruto walked throughout the village streets, seeing people making their way, kids walking around, there was a smile on his face. He was happy to interact, not having to hide and interact, but to fully experience it. As he made his way happily, just walking and not really having a destination in mind. As he found himself within the training ground areas, he was surprised that he wasn't alone here. It was midday after all. Naruto paused as he saw someone. It was a girl. a dark-haired girl as she was training. By herself. He watched her as she had 3 kunais in both hands. She was struggling slightly to handle them. She launched the first set from her left hand before launching the second set. They clashed against each other and shot in different directions. She then jumped in the air and threw 2 others, but when she landed she frowned, as it seemed like she messed up what she was doing. Hey! Naruto blinked as she saw him doing her flip. What do you think you're doing? She asked, slowly making her way towards him, advancing. Naruto stood there tilting his head. Hey, I'm talking to you, she said to him. Oh, I'm not doing anything, he said, scratching the back of his head. I'm just watching. Why? Are you some pervert or something? Me? Of course not, he said to her. Can't I watch your training? No. I don't know you, and it's a secret, she said. Why? He said to her. No, that is not any of your business. So can you just go away? She said to him. You know, I could show you what you wanted to do. She narrowed her gaze towards him. What are you talking about? She asked. Oh, this, as he made his way over. Hey, I didn't say you could touch those, she said to him. However, Naruto picked up the 3 kunais, as he had a gif of what she wanted to do, and he just needed that. Naruto launched a 3. Before launching the other 3, he then jumped. She blinked in confusion. When did he take up the other 2? He threw them as they clinged against the others, and each and every one of them stuck in the 2 poses with perfect accuracy. She blinked in shock. How did you... Who are you? She asked. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Naruto, he said, extending his hand. She looked towards it before. She grabbed it as she shook it. Nice to meet you, Naruto, she said. I'm Sadara Uchiha. Oh, you're from that clan. She gave him a strange look. What do you mean by that? Oh, nothing, he said. I didn't mean to say it in that way. You see, I don't really have a lot of communication skills, given the fact that I don't really have a lot of friends, especially my age, so I might come off a bit weird. You're telling me, she said. So, Sadara, want my help? No, she said. Know that I saw you did it. I know exactly what I was leaving out. You do? Just watch, she said, as she did it over again. Naruto was surprised by her progress. She only missed 1. She did it again and again. After the 4th try, she got them. That's amazing, he said. She turned towards him. Really? Of course. You were nowhere that close earlier, and look at you now. You're a really fast learner. His words sound really genuine, as that made her smile. A sad smile though. Is everything alright? You seem upset. Oh, I'm fine, she said. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but my brother is a really big deal, and I kind of live in his shadow. And I hate it. Whenever people see me, they think about him first. They refer to me as his little sister. I want people to see me as my own person. Who's your brother? Naruto asks. Oh, his name is Shisui Uchiha. They called him the teleporter. I think I've heard of that name. Of course you have. He's one of the top Uchihas within the clan. I think I know what you mean now, said Naruto. Even if you push yourself and reach certain heights, you think they're still gonna refer to you as his little sister. Yeah, that is the only reason why I'm out here anyway, and not training within the clan grounds. But enough about me. Why haven't I seen you before? And I've been here a lot, she said to him. I'm pretty much new around here, he said. So you're not from this village? She looked towards him with a cautious look. Oh yeah, I am, he said. I just did not grow up around these parts. Well, I guess I gotta get going now. As he stepped towards her, he got rather close as he smiled at her. Don't let anyone tell you anything, he said to her. You're awesome. And you're a really fast learner, I'm sure. In no time that. You'll be 100 times better than your brother, he said to her. Well, see ya, he said. She blinked in shock when he suddenly vanished. She spun around. What the hell? As she sat there for a good 10 minutes wondering if she was talking to a ghost or something. She proceeded to ask around, to those that she was able to ask and those that she was close with, upon leaving the training ground, if any one of them saw him or if anyone knew a kid named Naruto, but there was no such person. Sadara started to wonder if she was losing her mind. She must be. Was she seriously talking to a ghost the entire time? As no one saw him come in here, and no one knew of him. Who the hell was that? Time skip. Hiruzen was seated within his office when he heard a tap on his window as he turned to see Naruto. Naruto proceeded to reach up as he pulled his hand down across the window and opened it. He did not physically open the window as a normal person would. He opened the space in the glass. He literally bent space itself, breaking the laws of physics. As he stepped in, and once he did, the window repaired itself. I had the most amazing day, said Naruto. I even met a friend, as he floated over towards the couch and sat down. Hiruzen smiled. I'm glad to hear that, he said. Who was it, he asked. Her name is Sadara Uchiha. I never thought I would meet her so quickly, said Naruto. Naruto knew who Shisui was. He also knew who Itachi was. After all, Naruto was the reason why they were still within the village and why everything was going alright. Flashback. Hiruzen was faced with a dreadful thing that he had to do. The Uchihas were plotting a coup, having both Itachi and Shisui on his side because they also did not want what to happen. They also wanted to stop it from happening. And they needed to stop it. Yes, they have to. However, there were two paths that they could take. The first one was allowing Shisui to do what he does best. Or the second one. And the second one no one wanted. And it was going to drastically break the person that does it if they didn't have a lifeline to hold on to. As the three of them were having a discussion, Danzo already had what he wanted to do as he saw the Uchihas as a threat. However, Hiruzen had stopped that in its tracks. There was still time. He could not speak with Fukaku right now because he would drill until he found out who was the one that was spreading information. And Hiruzen didn't want to chance it just as yet. He wasn't within his office. They were meeting underground to discuss this rather sensitive information. There was numerous bases around the village. Hiruzen wanted to speak to them before he spoke and brought in his own teammates, the elders of the village. This was bad. I have an idea. Immediately, Itachi draw the blade behind him. Shisui pulling a kunai out as the both of them spun to take down the intruder listening to their conversation. However, the both of them hit nothing as the person had already moved. Hiruzen looked stressed even more. Naruto, what the hell are you doing here? He said as a 6-year-old Naruto was standing there. I was just passing by and I overheard some talking, so I decided to passing by. We are far away from where you're supposed to be. Oh, well, it is underground as well. And I was passing by underground, I mean. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Hiruzen released a heavy breath. What? I did not go back to the surface. I'm still underground, said Naruto. And I was curious, what was going on over here? You're not involved in this. What have you heard? pretty much everything about the Uchiha clan, plotting a coup. Why don't you let me fix it? And how exactly are you planning on fixing this? Oh, that's simple. I'll wipe it out of their mind. What? Hiruzen said. Before you ask, I've never used this on you. And I promise, I respect you too much to do that. But I can wipe minds. Like, completely. I'll just go within the clan and I'll erase all of their memories about everything regarding to a coup or sabotage. They will still be perhaps a bit angry about how they're being treated, but with all that planning wiped away, and you and the others putting in an effort to help them, I think we can turn this around, said Naruto. So what do you think? Both Itachi and Shisui were confused. Hokage-sama, who is this boy? Shisui asks, curious about the child. Oh, hi there, Shisui, said Naruto. You know me? Well, I heard your name. And you're Itachi Uchiha. And my name is Naruto. A pleasure to meet you, he said, extending both hands. They both proceed to shake his hands, Itachi watching him skeptically, as Hiruzen was thinking about what Naruto said. Perhaps that might be the only way that they could do this. Are you sure that you can wipe out every trace of the coup? Hokage-sama, sorry to interrupt, but that was a plan that I was going to do. Well, not exactly, said Naruto. You were just going to change his mind by controlling him. I can take away the memory from all of them, except for you guys. Think about it as them not knowing about the coup in the first place, and I can make sure that memory doesn't return. Given the situation, you must excuse my confusion and disbelief. To you being able to pull off such a feat, while the world can be deceiving, what you're speaking of is on a much grander scale. Is that something that you can do? Don't underestimate him. If he says he can do it, then he can. Both of them were once again confused, as the Hokage put so much trust in this person. Just who the hell was he, they thought to themselves. So how about we stop a tragedy before it even happened, said Naruto. End of flashback. They went with Naruto's plan, as Shisui and Itachi realized why Naruto was so trusted by the Hokage. They were both shocked when the child proceeded to duplicate himself. He did not use any hand signs. He did not perform any clone technique. He simply duplicated himself into the same amount of members that were in on the coup with a single touch to their head after teleporting into their homes. He eradicated the memory of anything revolving around a coup. The both of them were curious who Naruto was, but for now the Hokage told them that it was a grave secret. However, he shall reveal it to them soon. For now though, they were to monitor the Uchihas to make sure that everything went well. And that was the only reason why the Uchihas still lived. Throughout the brief time that he had met them, Naruto found out that Shisui had a sister. Granted, he never saw her, and he found out that Itachi had a little brother as well. He never saw them, but now Naruto knew who was Shisui's sister. Sadara Uchiha. So, said Naruto, when are you gonna get around in telling the village about me? I told you to give me some time, Hiruzen said. Besides, today's your first day in the village. That I know about. Hiruzen said, giving Naruto a look. And like I said, I would sign you up for the academy as a late starter. So, just give me some time. In the meanwhile, Hiruzen reached into his desk as he pulled out a key and tossed it. I got you, an apartment that you can stay, he said. As Naruto flipped over as he looked at the bottom section of the key, seeing the address being written on it. Well, I guess I can enjoy my time in the village until then. Well then, Naruto vanished, leaving Hiruzen alone in his office. Hiruzen had trusted Naruto more and more as years went by. Not only was he a beneficial part in making sure that a huge calamity did not happen. He's also more than proven himself time and time again, as Naruto was able to do things that Hiruzen did not believe there was any single other in the elemental nation could do. The child was truly special on a more global scale, maybe even universal scale. As for Naruto, arriving towards the apartment as he stepped inside. However, Naruto held his hand out as a small orb started to form in his hand, a crystal orb that started to produce many sides, a hexagon shape. Naruto then proceeded to crush it, and light spill out of his hand and swallow the entire room. The next moment, Naruto was on soft grass. As he made his way, slowly walking down, Naruto saw the massive nine-tailed fox residing near a small little house. Naruto had spent a lot of time here. Majority of the time, Hiruzen and Danzo believed that he was situated underground, but they could not tell when he swapped with his clones because there was nothing to tell. He could create a perfect copy of himself, who had its own sentience and own understanding. And here he was now. This place was his creation, a dimension that he had put together. It wasn't particularly large or anything, but it was a place that he kept the nine-tailed fox. The entire fox, to be more precise. Kurama opened his eyes as he looked at the boy. Flashback. It was a couple of years ago when Naruto was 5 years old. He had spoken to the fox before, but today was the day. As Naruto arrived in his mindscape, Kurama wanted nothing to do with him. Despite the boy being extraordinary, he did not really care about that. He just wanted to be left alone. However, it was the first time that the boy entered here and did not speak. Nor did he proceed to say a single word. He simply just walked inside. Kurama watched as the child held his hand up. It did not take too long for him to press his hand on the seal, and the seal started to glow. It started to tremble abnormally. The fox watched as he was astonished and shocked. Without the key, Naruto shattered the seal that was locked on. Kurama slammed his hand in the bar, breaking free. Immediately, his first thoughts was to swallow Naruto whole and get his freedom. However, before he could even process what was going on, he was tiny. Kurama blinked as he shouted upwards, "What did you do to me?" However, Naruto started to chuckle because his voice sounded high-pitched and squeaky. Naruto picked him up as Kurama started hitting him with his tails. However, they were truly ineffective. Naruto smiled as he placed him in a small ball like a gerbil. "Time to go," he said, as Naruto started to sink the ball into his stomach. In the outside world, the ball literally passed through his stomach, with Kurama inside. As the fox was in the living world once again, Kurama himself was shocked, couldn't believe it. As he looked around, he was free. However, Naruto nodded to his special clone, who had completely erased itself. The ball was in his hand, but Naruto was manipulating light to avoid the cameras. Stepping behind the clone, Naruto vanished as the clone took his spot and simply sat down. It had reappeared with such precision, such speed that not even the flicker of the camera could see it, as Naruto was able to create a variant of his own shadow on the ground to make it existence. Yes, the things that he could do were truly amazing. Kurama blinked as he found himself in a forest, a vast great forest. Naruto tossed him and then held his hand out as the thing shattered when Kurama grew back to his original size. His intention was to still get rid of the boy who simply shrunk him like it was nothing. However, as he bit down, the child was no longer there. Come on now, I just freed you and your first intention is to devour me. Kurama tried to get Naruto off his back, but it didn't matter what he did. This carried on for what seemed to be hours. And yes, it was hours, but no matter how hard he tried, he just could not get Naruto. Kurama found himself getting tired, which was really confusing. Even if he was a being to get tired, this wasn't supposed to happen so quickly. Sorry about that. I created the dimension to act this way. Kurama slumped down as Naruto was now sitting on his nose. I'll get you for this. Come on, I freed you. After everything I've heard about you, after finding out that you've been locked away for so long, I realized that, well, you're not really a bad guy. After all, I was able to peer into your mind. You what? Sorry about that, but I needed to know what happened that night. I'm gonna find that masked man, and I'm gonna make him pay for the both of us. After all, he took my parents away from me, and he made you be locked up once again. So yeah, that's a promise I've made you right here and now. This place is a dimension that I created last week. It should be enough to hold you, said Naruto. No longer will people come after you. You can live your life in here. You can run. You can play with the other animals. Just have a look. Kurama looked towards the ocean as he saw a gigantic tail of a serpent. Gazing out towards a far distance, he saw other foxes, bears. They were almost the size of him, which was quite terrifying not to Kurama but to anyone else who would have witnessed this sight. Weeks passed as Kurama was angered that Naruto knew his name, because Naruto had dived into his mind. As much as Kurama tried to ignore him, the child had given him something rather great. However, Naruto took some of his chakra and used that chakra to find out what was missing. Naruto also found out that his father was trapped away with that chakra. In that moment, Naruto did something that showed that his powers were on a completely different level. Naruto broke the bond between the Death Reaper seal and death itself. He was unaware. All he did was free his father's soul to the Pure Land, and he brought back the other half of Kurama and fused it with the beast. Ever since then, the both of them had been friends, as much as the beast wasn't one to go into soft talks and say that they were. However, Naruto had no idea what he had done. He had no idea who he had angered because of his move. End of the flashback. As Naruto resided within the dimension, he came here ever so often to speak with Kurama. It was peaceful. Not to mention the other animals, Naruto gave them the ability to talk. So it was calmful being in here and speaking to his creations. To this day, he had no idea if there was any limit to his power. He could create and he could destroy, but he truly wondered if there was an absolute limit. This dimension that he had created wasn't that large. However, he was thinking about creating something more global, something much larger to test the limits of his power. Well, that would be soon enough. Time skip. Exploring the village for 2 weeks straight. As Naruto met countless people, he also got a taste of some delicious ramen from the Ichiraku family, as Naruto fell in love with the meal. Ever since that first day of meeting him, Sadara had not seen Naruto back because he was all over the place. However, Hiruzen decided to be truthful to his words. This was a big boom in Konoha economy for several reasons. For one, Naruto's last name would attract many, and the fear of assassins or people sent to overcome him was not something that Hiruzen was worried about. Everyone was wondering if the Hokage was retiring, as they saw on the bulletin board that there was a big announcement to be made. The entire village was gathered down below. The place was packed, going way back. There was a lot of people within the Hidden Leaf. Hiruzen Sarutobi stood on the podium as he gazed down towards his people. I'm sure you're all wondering why you're here. So let's get right into it. I won't waste your time. 10 years ago, our beloved Furtokage perished after giving his life to make sure that we were all safe. And today, I'm about to reveal something that I've kept away from you all. Because of safety reasons, Naruto appeared beside Hiruzen in a flash, shocking many as they thought that he just performed the technique that his father did, but it was just his teleportation. This here is Naruto Namikaze, the son of Minato Namikaze. It took a moment. However, that didn't last. The village sounded like it was being torn down. To find out that their hero, their beloved Hokage, had a child. All this time, there was a lot of celebration. Knowing that this boy was going to carry on his legacy, it was an overwhelming feeling of grace and happiness to think about after their many losses over the years and losing their Hokage. He left behind a legacy, as Hiruzen went on to explain that the boy's life was in a constant state of jeopardy and danger because of who his father was. There wasn't much that Naruto had said. He simply smiled and waved, as many would like to meet him. Over the next following weeks, word spread all over the Elemental Nation. However, the place that took this most was Kumo at first. The Raikage had a sketch of a blonde-haired boy with blue eyes, and now he was holding a photo of Naruto. The Raikage was forced to kill his own ambassador. The man was caught, and it was a direct treason to what they just signed. The Raikage threw him under the bus, saying that they had nothing to do with what he had planned. That was a direct lie, of course, but the Raikage wasn't about to allow his village to be caught up in something because that pathetic man was unable to get what he desired. So he had to put an end to him. It was a sign that they would have peace. However, before that though, the man had tried to stay alive by giving all the information that he had. The Raikage didn't want to believe him. However, the fact that he no longer possessed chakra, it was still too strange to even believe. But he was telling the truth all along. The Raikage now looked at the portrait. He might be much younger, but the descriptions, not to mention the marks on his face, it was him. So the person that could rid someone of their chakra was the son of the blasted Yellow Flash. The stone was not taking this well either, as they were pissed off as well, thinking that they've dealt with that man once and for all, but he had a damn child. That wasn't good for anyone. None at all. Back at the Hidden Leaf, it was a beautiful day within the village, as the academy was about to start. That was until Aruka announced that they would be having a new student join them. People were already sure they knew who it was. Sadara was shocked. It was him. It was Naruto, but he called himself. Wait, he didn't give her a last name. That is why he was so secretive. The door opened up as Naruto stepped inside, with a smile on his face. While that was going on, while everything might seem peaceful, Naruto was an oddity in this world. He was a problem. His very existence was something that was not supposed to happen. The abilities that he possessed, what he was, it was a problem. And because of that, certain forces were building behind the scenes. Certain forces were joining together to make sure that this problem is eradicated from the face of the entire universe. So yes, from the moment he was born, his life was in jeopardy, which he would soon come to find out. But guys, be end so right here. If you want to see the next part and do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification as I posted. Bye, I'm off. No, see you guys soon. Peace.